Now this is, I think, for the facilitators, the most important piece of this whole thing. You'll notice each meeting is in its own folder. So all you have to do if I'm doing meeting 1 is click on meeting 1 and all your resources are there for you. So we're going to go through this. I'm not going to go through every, obviously, because that's what these webinars are for. So the agenda. Wrong one. So there are 3 agendas here. There is a facilitator's agenda, which is for the facilitator, and it includes kind of notes and stuff so that while you're facilitating the process, you have a guide for you. It has more robust information than just the bare bones agenda. There's also meeting notes. So this one provides the agenda and provides a space for notes. I highly encourage you guys to find somebody within the attendees of the meeting to take notes. And then you have the regular agenda. Again, you guys don't have to use this. I'm sure all of you have your own agenda templates. You can just copy and paste whatever you need from this and put it on your own template. We're just putting it there to put it there. So what you'll notice here, I'm a stickler for starting on time. You may have noticed I said 2 o'clock, we're starting. I highly encourage you guys to set that tone as well. I know it's hard, but I highly encourage you guys to set that expectation. Not a requirement, it's an expectation. So what I like to build in is 10 minutes of social time, so trying to encourage people to come early, and if they need to talk, to do it then. We'll start at whatever time we're starting. Doing welcomes and introductions, obviously, and I think in most of your communities you're all going to know everybody, but sometimes new people do show up. So welcome and introductions, an activity. You're going to discuss this process. So like ultimately 8 weeks, what are we doing? Why are we meeting? Why is it important? And what's going to happen at the end of it? You're going to talk about qualitative assessment tools, which I'll show you guys what those are in a little bit, and then you'll wrap up the meeting. So every meeting should last between an hour and 15 minutes. It really obviously depends on the room. So this meeting is the lightest of all of them. It's the Caitlin, our COC programs coordinator, likes to say it's the syllabus day, right? Like we're just covering the basics. So what I have built, well, what we built in here ultimately is this fun activity called the Marshmallow Challenge. So has anybody done the Marshmallow Challenge? I want to let people respond. No. Okay, awesome. So the reason why I put this in here is because so the reason why I put this in here is because pretty much like a week after I started, we did 100,000 Homes Boot Camp in Georgetown. Mary, Eric, and myself went, and they started it out with us doing the Marshmallow Challenge, which I think really set the tone for what the intended process is supposed to be and like how we're supposed to critically think about things. And since I don't know if you guys do a lot of fun things in your LHC meetings or whatever entity is going to be taking this over. It's just a fun way to kind of like diffuse everything and to like, it's just a fun team building thing, right? So what the Marshmallow Challenge is everybody gets marshmallow, and it's all outlined here. You'll notice on the toolkit, all the resources you need to run this is here. But the Marshmallow Challenge is you basically get raw noodles, spaghetti, and a marshmallow, and masking tape, and I think some string. And you divide everybody up into teams, and then you tell them, okay, you guys have to build the largest structure in the room. And then you let them go. I think it's like 10 to 15 minutes maybe. You let that time pass, then you determine which team has the highest one, and then you debrief on it, right? So there are a lot of questions in here. This comes from a really well-known TED Talk. And does anybody, so they tested the Marshmallow Challenge with like different groups of people. Can anybody guess who created the highest structure out of all the groups? Like what, it's like moms or I don't know, just Andrea. So children, so kindergartners did the best job. So, and why they did the best job is because adults, we've learned a lot in our lifetimes, right? And so we apply a lot of our learning into creating the structures, whereas what children do is they hold the marshmallow the whole time and they're constantly doing trial and error. So when they build something, they test the marshmallow. And so the moral basically of this activity is, one, we always need to keep our marshmallow in mind when we're developing anything, be it a program, be it our system. So our marshmallow for what we do are people experiencing homelessness. The second piece is we really want to create these structures of trial and error where it's okay to try things, it's okay to fail, as long as you're learning from them and you're trying to do it better. Courtney just had a hashtag what's your marshmallow. So that's why we suggested that you do the marshmallow challenge. You guys can do it. You cannot do it. It's up to you. I highly encourage you to do it. I thought it was a really great takeaway from that whole process. It's really probably the biggest thing that I remember, and it was also really fun. So the first step is doing the marshmallow challenge. Then what you'll do is you'll talk about the process. So, right? We want to meet over the course of 8 weeks. There's attendees' responsibilities here. So this will go in line with this section, right? So basically what you'll be saying is, we need you guys to participate in these conversations. It's going to be the course over 8 weeks, or if you guys do it bi-weekly, whatever your community decides, but we need active participation. We need you to make sure that you're sending leadership to these meetings because we need people who can make the change in an instant. So you're basically going to describe the process, right? Like you can even go through and describe, like, maybe not in detail about each meeting, but like overarching, this is what our intended goal is, and this is how we're going to do it. And then lastly, you're gonna close it basically with going over the qualitative assessment tools. So you've heard me say, I mean, if you guys have heard me talk before, I don't think I go one presentation without saying the word data or data informed. So we're going to ask you to be data informed. So the qualitative assessment tools, again, available in their own folder, were developed by OrgCode. I know OrgCode's controversial, but it's a really good tool. OrgCode and National Alliance to End Homelessness. And the tools are intended for, I think, 3 or 4 populations. So the first is for consumers. The second is for community leaders and executive directors. So this would be like your mayor, your police chief, your fire captain, chief. I don't know what that person's called. Like maybe hospital administrators, people involved, like executive directors of homeless or agencies that disperse homelessness assistance or housing. So community leaders, executive directors. This one is intended for direct service providers, so those are people who work directly with people experiencing homelessness. So that would be like your frontline staff or your volunteers, like Path and Tyler, they have community case management. So it'd be interesting to hear from them. And then lastly, this will assist you guys in the analysis. I'll also be able to help in that. But basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be providing several weeks, and this is all outlined in the facilitators agenda. You're going to be outlining several weeks. I think it's meeting 5 or 6 that you'll actually go over the qualitative assessments. So there'll be the reminder in the facilitators agenda to remind the group to make sure that they're getting their assessments filled out. Why we think it's a good idea to have you guys do this is these tools were created with the intention of evaluating your entire system. They're somewhat longish, but I think the data that you get from them can be pretty enlightening. I went to an NAH session, I think in 2014, where a woman engaged in a year of agitation, and she used these surveys, she used like focus groups, she used tours to basically show people that like what I thought about how the system was working for people is not what is actually happening. So highly encourage you guys to do this. I I think that's all the meeting materials. I also included something about meeting rules. We actually do that at our own agency. We use the 4 agreements. Would anybody be interested in me including that in here as well? I'll just include it to include it. But it's basically, right, this meeting is where you're setting the tone for how we're going to move forward in this process. We need everybody to be engaged. We need everybody to be prepared. We need everybody to respect each other. I know sometimes that's hard from what I've seen at a lot of meetings I've been to, but I think you just need to set that expectation. That's about it. Does anybody have any questions? It's okay if you don't, but I just want to provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. That's the intention of these webinars, is to provide another way to be available to you guys. Okay, so Michelle, nothing at this time. Do you guys feel like this is something that you can utilize in your communities? C, okay, John Cooper. Yes, Alexa, no problem, Alexis, thank you. Okay, so I'm here for whatever. Really how we're moving from here on out with this process, with systems change, which coordinated entry is that vehicle, right? For having you guys have these conversations. I am available however you need me. Via email, I FaceTime. If you have an iPhone, I FaceTime. I am here to support you guys. So we are partners in this process, but you guys are ultimately going to be the leaders of this process. When we were working with Randall, I like to think of it as like being his chief of staff. So like we really help just support him in everything, including writing agendas, as you guys see, to like providing that background knowledge, to presenting when he asked us to. So again, you guys are very much going to steer the bus on this, the train, the boat, whatever vehicle you want it to be. But ultimately, right, I'm here for you, and that's the thing I want you guys to always remember. No question is a stupid question, and I am here to provide whatever resource, do whatever research, anything you guys need. Last opportunity for questions. That's it for this webinar. We'll be meeting again, same day of the week, Thursday at 2:30 next week. We'll be going over meeting materials number 2. I actually have one more poll, which I surprisingly just remembered. I'm curious as to whether or not you guys have decided what your meeting schedule is going to be for the systems change process. So Daisy asked a really excellent question. If these webinars are weekly, is it intended to have our weekly meetings within our communities now? So it's really up to you guys. So in the email I sent out, which you may or may not have gotten, Daisy, we encourage that you guys meet weekly. So the intention is, right, we went over the webinar, or sorry, we went over meeting number 1 this week. So our thought was by next week, you guys would be having meeting number 1. However, we know that is not going to happen in every community. For those of you that are meeting weekly, you'll be set up. Once you finish this analysis, once you do your 100-day challenge, your coordinated entry system should be set up by September or October. So you're good to go. The deadline for implementing coordinated entry is in January. If you meet monthly, it's a little concerning. You guys may need to assign more time to your meetings to cover maybe several weeks of meeting materials. It's really up to you guys, right? We have a recommendation, but it's really up to like the capacity that you have in your community. That was a long way of answering that question. I hope it was very clear that, again, that is flexible and entirely up to you guys. So polls, majority of people TBD. I get it. It's okay. About 14% of you are meeting weekly and about 19% of you are meeting monthly. So that's good for us to have an idea. As you guys figure this out, please let me know so that I know basically how to schedule my weeks, especially if I need to provide more support one week over another. Other than that, you have the toolkit. I encourage you to look over it. I'll be probably updating materials every Tuesday or Wednesday. So next week, prior to our meeting on Thursday, I'll have updated meeting number 2 by Wednesday, close of business. So if you want to print anything out, I would wait until Wednesday or Thursday morning. That's about it. Any questions? Anything I can do differently next time? Anything. Feedback, always encourage. I know I tell you guys that all the time. It's all good. Okay. Okay, so thank you, Daisy. I really, it was like a month and a half of work. Daisy says awesome toolkit materials. So yeah, I'm looking forward to next week, especially for those of you who may be meeting next week on meeting number 1. I'm excited to hear your feedback on that. What worked well, what didn't work, what you would suggest changing, but also going over meeting material number 2. And we'll do the same process every time. I'll do webcam, assuming that I remember we have the webinar that day and I look presentable. I always do, but any last minute questions before I end this webinar? Okay, I don't see anything rolling in. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything that you do in your communities. Homelessness couldn't be ended without you guys. So yeah, thank you. I will see you all next week.